right? It seems so stigmatized, right? But having a bookkeeper, having someone that's helping you with profit and loss statements, help you understand, are you really putting unnecessary personal expenses that are bringing your margins down? I know, I'm going from metal and friction to metal, right? So,
No, why?
well, because
Who's asking?
because if you want to sell a business or if you want to get a loan, you need to be able to show income. And if you're trying to avoid paying taxes, putting everything through the business, trying to show real profit as possible, then when it matters to show income, you're not going to be able to show income.
You're in big trouble.
I know.
Deep water. Okay, so cash flow is number one.
Yeah,
And that means run your business like, dare I say, a business.
a business.
Okay. I'm joined live today at Premier Orlando with Michael Cole. He is a retired Navy executive and owner of Daniel Island Barbershop in Charleston, as well as a certified financial planner. So what a fun gig to have Michael with us live here. And you can see that they're building out the show floor right now. It's such a beautiful event. I'm really excited.
Yeah, I'm excited.
And grateful that you're joining me here today.
Well, I'm glad we can do this in person instead. This is very exciting.
Much more fun.
It is.
He's actually not real. He's AI. We've just photoshopped him in. But it's really great to have you joining us live. This is a little bit of a jump from leaving the Navy to financial planning and owning a barbershop.
That's right.
Help me understand how, why, that's to. But tell me a little bit about that transition and that journey.
Well, that's a really good question. I think I'm still sorting it out myself, so I'll give you the best answer I've got so far, right? Which is, as I was retiring from the Navy, I was trying to figure out what I was really want to do. Right?
Cool. And you retired really young. In the Navy,
Yeah,
right?
42. Yeah, I mean, it's a day over 45.
Maybe. Brand new.
So I retired about 9 years ago, but as I was retiring, what I realized is that I'm not a very good W-2 I spent a couple of years to double spit into employee. It wasn't much fun. I love the people of the company, just wasn't my style of what I do. So part of that journey is I live in a community called Daniel Island, and what we realized is that there was no barbershop, kind of like Bayberry, you know, what Andy Griffin's show.
Cute.
There was no Floyd's barbershop, and so my business partner and I joked about it enough that we said, you know what, we can figure this out.
Yeah.
I went to Amazon, I bought a book on how to open a barbershop, wrote a book. I read the book, wrote a plan, and hired our manager. And so we've been open for 8 years now. I've got 7 chairs, 7 barbers, and it's just a ton of fun. I love the team; they're fantastic. It's great. And then about 6 years ago, I got recruited to join Northwestern Mutual and to build my own financial planning practice. Through that, I kind of formed my own business, Cole Wealth Management, under the umbrella. And about 3 years ago, I came up for air, and I said, you know what? I own a barbershop. I work in the financial industry. I have clients in this space. What does it mean if I do this with intentionality? And
Right.
so I decided to pivot hard to serve in the beauty industry. I think this industry is grossly underserved.
Yeah.
From people in my profession as a financial advisor. So just really passionate about this industry. I love the people. I love y'all. Y'all are incredible. And I tell everyone, like, this job, this career, being in the beauty industry, it's not for mere mortals. Like, it takes a special person to do this work and do it well. And I just love working with y'all.
Okay, well, I love that. And thank you for sharing a little bit of that path. How long has it been since you exited the military and started the barbershop?
So,
Owned the barbershop.
So I've owned the barbershop. So we spent 18 months building it out. But since our grand opening, it's 8 years ago.
Okay, so it's been a minute.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
I like
figured
it
out.
long enough to know that you know the industry and that you like the people in it, which,
Yeah.
I mean, that makes one of us. Actually, I've done it. So he's like, I'm an outsider. He said he had to kind of like wiggle his way into these spaces where he's coming to these events and talking to people who are his clients or his potential clients. And I mean, with some of us, like I was brought up in the industry. My 2 aunts did hair, one of them from home growing up. So I mean, I was raised looking into the window of her salon. And then I went to beauty school starting when I was 15. So like I've been, these are my people, right? But these people too, and we welcome outsiders and foreigners. We're so happy to have you. Now, as a CFP, we have an industry where there can be really, really high volume and high revenue, but abysmally low margin. So tell me, if someone's listening, this is the only thing they get out of this podcast right now, they're like, what is the number one thing that you would suggest a salon owner or barbershop owner does to increase their margins or to really help balance out what they do within their financials? So that's a huge, huge pain point for many
Yeah.
owners.
Well, so there's layers to that,
Mhm.
right? So it starts with cash flow, right? It seems so stinking obvious, right? But having a bookkeeper, having someone that's helping you deal with profit and loss statements, help you understand, are you really putting unnecessary personal expenses that are bringing your margins down? I know I'm going from meddling, preaching to meddling, right? So,
No, why?
well, because
Who's asking?
because if you want to sell a business or if you want to get a loan, you need to be able to show income. And if you're trying to avoid paying taxes, putting everything through the business, trying to show as little profit as possible, then when it matters, you need to show income. You're not going to be able to show income.
You're in big trouble.
I
Deep water.
I-
Okay, so cash flow is number one.
Yeah,
And that means run your business like, dare I say, a business.
a business.
Okay. So this is
Yeah.
this is a really big like number one
Yeah.
bullet point. Spoiler alert. Run your business like a business, folks. Okay, so we got run your business like a business.
Yeah.
What's next after that?
So this is going to be rainbows and sunshine. Y'all ready for this? All right. There's 3 reasons that we exit the business.
Okay.
All right. So number 1 is death, disability, or retirement. The latter is preferred. But we have to plan against the other 2.
Okay.
And so it's really important that as business owners, think about what is our exit strategy, regardless of the needs of the exit.
Right.
So we have to plan against all those things. And the first 2 is what people just aren't thinking about. They're not thinking about succession planning. What does it mean for business? Especially if you have, very, very important, you have a business partner. If you have a business partner, there's extra entanglements. It's like another marriage, right? That comes with that. And so we have to be mindful of like, well, what does it mean for my family if I unexpectedly exit the business? How do they get their value?
Okay. All right. So what's your exit strategy? Because I have bad news and good news for everybody listening. And I might have a way of taking a fun podcast and turning it really dark and morbid, but the truth is we are all going to die for sure. And do we know when? Did you get do you get a notification on your phone? Like, is it on your calendar for 10 years from now or 8 years from now? We don't know. So we're all going to die. Some of us are going to be disabled. And at some point, we hope all of us are able to retire before those other 2 things happen.
Exactly.
These are inevitable things. At some point, we will exit our businesses. And how are we going to do so gracefully? Yeah. So what do you tell your clients? What are the people working with you learning from them?
Well, they're learning every day.
Every day.
Every day. Right? So, say it as it says. So we start with the foundational building blocks, right? So I think the problem with financial services as it relates to this industry is that, again, I'm going meddling, is that many people in this industry have a short attention span.
Huh?
Yes, squirrel. So what we're looking at.
Out there.
So sorry, where were we? So squirrel, right? So we have a short attention span. So we go to places like Instagram to information. And while some of that information may be it may be relevant in a very nuanced situation, it's really not relevant to everybody's situation. And so we have to be really mindful that what somebody's saying on Instagram, they're not held accountable for it. Right.
Also, someone can give amazing advice, and I think this is true of any type of coaching or other industry professionals, even if they're from inside the industry. Take what they're saying, filter it through your own business needs, and where you're at, because what they are saying might be excellent for a certain model and not yours. So take it through your filter, consider everything mindfully, and then make it more applicable to yourself. So you're saying don't just be a numbed out consumer.
That's right.
And follow every, trend or something that's going on.
It's got to pass a common sense check. Like if it's not resonant, if a recommendation is not resonant, if it's coming from somebody like me or if it's coming from another coach, recommendation doesn't make sense. Like start asking questions.
Okay. All right. I like that. Thank you. I think that's very helpful. And I know that people who are looking to become more profitable or who are really interested in shifting into more of the CEO position, people who have maybe they're running a great business, but they're looking to increase their margin and start to build out a succession plan. How does working with someone like you serve that community?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So working with salon owners, barbershop owners, owners in general, first thing I tell them is like any recommendations they make are the best interest of the person.
Okay.
Right? Because I think that this industry, we really love and care about people, right? We want them to be well and be successful, but it can't come at the cost of our business. So anything that we're investing into our business is also got to be in the best interest of the owner, because you're the one accepting all the risks.
Yeah.
So you have to receive a benefit from it. So there's a couple different layers of that. So to build successful people, like I'll just circle back to the barbershop. My own metric I pay attention to is retention. Because if for me to bring a new barber, it have to go through three. I have to go through a little bit of crazy, and in order I get to a barber that can actually work.
You mean team member retention?
Team member
retention. Okay, so that's it. Yeah, that's true. Because I know a lot of people are looking at their guest retention.
Yes.
So you're talking about your employee for team member retention.
That's
okay.
right. Yeah,
that's your metric.
Yeah, that's my number one metric. And so half of my team has been with me for 4 years alone.
Awesome.
Right. So I mean that's my number one thing I care about, because if I have consistency with them, I can sort everything out. So as an owner, what are we thinking about in order to attract and retain talent?
Okay.
Right. And so there's some things that matter. Like there's no recommendation I can give you that's going to overcome culture. If you have bad culture, sorry.
That's a different type of that's a different type of consultant. That's
a different coach. That's out of my wheelhouse, right? But if you have good culture and you want to do something for yourself and for your team, there are things we can look at, like with disability, especially if you have young women on your team who want to start a family. Short-term disability allows them to take maternity leave, paid by maternity leave. That's a phenomenal benefit. And oh, by the way, as we get older, if we become less insurable for things like disability insurance, time that we need for those. So a group disability product allows you to get the benefits that the owner to protect yourself and your own income. Right. So that's kind of easy stuff. The other side of it is a retirement plan, whether that's like a simple IRA or 401k. Again, which one of those products works best for the owner depends on how much capital they have. And but ultimately, we want to transfer wealth from the business to our personal balance sheets so that we can exit from the business successfully.
I love that. And I think that's something that would be, if I'm listening to this, I am a business owner, right? I'm listening to this as a salon owner, or even if I'm listening to this as a stylist, I'm really excited by the idea of being supported through benefits, through disability insurance, and through a retirement plan, because I know a lot of us, if we're the ones, our primary providers, the household or the primary insurance holder, that's a huge weight on us. So to be able to find an employer who sees that as a priority, I would feel personally very supported and be really excited to work in that space.
Yeah, I think it's part of good culture.
I like that. And I would feel supported and like I was really being invested in, and it would help me be more loyal. So I love that idea of getting that go. When we're talking about getting we talked about basically transferring the wealth on the balance sheet to us personally so that we can exit the business. What kind of timeline do you see this taking? Let's say somebody has a business that's running okay. They've been doing it for a few years, 5 years or so, and they've got a business that's going well. They're working on their profit margins. They're checking out their key performance indicators. How long would you say if someone's like, I'm going to come work for you, and I've grown my salon for 5 years, Michael, how long until you can help me build out a plan to exit? How does that look for someone who's going in? Okay.
Day one.
Should have started 5 years ago.
Should have started 5 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Well, I look at it like this. When we start a business, we have to start it with an exit in mind.
Okay.
You never start a journey without this.
A good friend of mine, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Yeah.
He says, begin with the end in mind. That's one of the habits. So start with the end in mind on day one. And if you're just 5 years into it or 4 years into owning your business and you're getting your head above water enough to listen to the podcast or to seek help from someone like Michael, day one can be today.
That's right.
So start planning on that exit strategy. Okay.
And it doesn't mean it has to be something complicated. It can be a super simple low-cost solution. It doesn't be a complicated program. But what we want to do is we want to build good savings muscles.
Okay.
Right? So I'm a runner when my body allows me to do it. And if I'm going to run a marathon, I'm not going to wake up tomorrow and go run 6 miles. I may do a 5K and may stretch that out to 6 miles and 10 miles, have a program that gets me there. Same for retirement, it's like running a marathon. Just got to start building those savings muscles early, right? And it can be something as simple as an individual retirement account, IRA, that you're putting $100 a month into. You may be like, well, that's not enough. It's not going to move the needle. It does, because it gets you the how.
I like that. Okay. I was supposed to be running a marathon tomorrow.
Oh,
Yeah, speaking of, you're not supposed to train for a marathon. You mean to tell me I wasn't supposed to do a half marathon from like 1 mile to 13 in a 6-week period?
hey, you do.
I did. And my hip was like older than you remember. So I'm here instead right now, which I'm happy about it from Orlando. But anyway, yes. But yes, the muscle, the concept of the muscle. And I didn't stop just because I got injured. I just scaled back.
That's it.
And I think I'm going to go with this analogy because I like the idea of building the muscle. I could very well have run that half marathon, which I did in 6 weeks, ill advised. Starting from somewhere is better than nowhere, but also I pushed too much, too hard, too fast. I got injured. That might happen in our business. We encounter a setback. We experience significant loss, whether it's a walkout or an unexpected expense in the business. Heaven forbid a lawsuit or your AC goes out on your building that you have to pay for, right? That's like an injury when you're training. I didn't stop exercising altogether. I switched what I was doing. I changed my pace. So if a business owner is listening to this and they're out there, they're just putting that $100 a month into that IRA. That's better than nothing. But if they try to go full force, they get injured in the meantime, keep moving, keep doing something. I think that's so important. And it's really easy for me as a person who wants to have it all figured out and done. Not only do I want to run a marathon, but I think I should be qualifying for the Boston Marathon whenever I need to run a 7:30 split. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So I have little goals. It's really hard to be like, yeah, but $100 won't. I see where that could be a barrier for me, but I think almost anybody, and if it's $25 a month, for $25 a month, and start setting that aside. The compound effect is real, and it's noted in every area of our lives when we implement it. And so I think that is so important to hear from someone, someone who does it too, encouraging us to start as small as necessary to get going. So thank you for that. Now, I want to exit my business. Okay. I'm 41 years old. This is just a pretend example of a case study. I'm 41 years old. I've owned my salon for 5 years, and I'm just sorting through things. What can you suggest that I do to get ready for an exit strategy? Or how long of a runway should I build out for myself in order to be ready for that?
Well, I think 5 years is a great runway, because I think in order to get the most value for the business, you've got to have a really clean optimal statement.
Okay.
So it takes about 5 years to build up that history, so that when somebody's looking at the business and they're looking at slowly understanding with a clear breakdown, like what were your personal expenses versus the actual cost of the business.
So when I go to Nordstrom, because I do have to wear clothes to work, and I have to wear makeup at work, and I have to wear shoes to work, do you mean to tell me that I shouldn't plan all that for the business? Asking for a friend. Okay. But keeping that clean, starting today, you would say 5 years is a great run.
I think 5 years is great.
Could we do it quicker if we needed to?
Absolutely.
All right. This is nice to know. So if someone's really thinking about it, like I could begin to position my business starting now today. At the date of this recording is the 31st of May. Okay, right. So starting today, I can say, I'm really going to clean up my P&L. I'm going to start working with someone at like Michael and get my books clean enough that in 3 or 4 years, I've got the history. And why, for someone who doesn't understand this, why is that so important?
Yeah, because believe it or not, there's a lot of people who use a salon as a place to invest. And so they want to look at your profit statement. They want to see the opportunities to increase margin.
Okay.
Right? So they're going to look at everything from employee expenses to extraneous expenses that may or may not be specifically related to the business. And what you want to show is that you have a healthy business. And so the more profit that you show, which means the more taxes you're going to pay, the more profit that you show, the healthier the business is going to work to sell it. And so it's usually there's a multiple associated. It's 3 times, maybe it's 5 times. And so depending on what that multiple is, the more you show, the higher you're going to get for the business.
Excellent. And if we're looking to exit our business, not due to death or disability, we want the most money possible.
That's right. Yeah.
And heaven forbid we're exiting the business due to disability or death. We want it to be profitable for the people that are managing our affairs when we're no longer able to. And as much as death is not a sexy topic. I mean, I love the macabre, but most people stray away from it. It's so important to just hit that head on and realize if we don't have those kind of things cleaned up and in order, we're leaving a massive, big mess for the people we love. And as uncomfortable as it is to think about this, we'll be having a mortician on next episode, so don't worry about it. But what's uncomfortable about concept is if we don't think about it, like if I want to avoid this, it's a debt that I'm pushing down the road for my survivors, for the people who are going to care for my affairs to handle. And that's honestly, that's not cool. It's way better to be proactive about it. All right, so I'm going to untangle those knots. I'm going to start working on that by working with the CFP. I'm going to clean up my books. What are, if there's a simple way to answer this, in the clients that you work with in the salon space, what are a few of the easiest levers you can see besides taking out the fake expenses from the business, not running personal expenses through? What are the main ways that you see salons increasing their profit margins the quickest or the easiest? Like the most common ways, like, hey, this is the top 2-3 things that my clients do, and they get a result pretty quickly. What are those things like?
Yeah, so that's getting a little out of my wheelhouse. That's getting into some of the other pictures. But I'll tell you, like, the most important thing, which I don't feel like I need to be a salon coach to say this, which is fix your prices. Okay. So I think there's a lot of fear in increasing prices for salon owners. So having a structured plan where you replace fear with success.
Okay.
And so the process says every January, I raise my prices by 3%. Because I too pay more inflation. My clients should, well. And so I would say when I started the barbershop, years ago to start, our prices go too low.
All right.
Because I was scared that there wouldn't be enough income to start. And so I've had to be super intentional about doing incremental plan price point increases in order to get us to.
Okay, and that was 7-8 years ago. Out of curiosity, what was the starting price point when you began, and where have you wound up at this point? And are you where you want to be yet?
We're not where I want to be.
Okay.
But we started at $16.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I mean, I said no. I mean, it was a barbershop, it was a haircut.
Yeah.
It's like, right.
Right.
So we are at 25.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So where should we be? We should be like 35. We're working our
What
way
are you doing to scale up? What is your increase? You mentioned you threw out 3% a year, but what are you increasing now to correct? Because I think a lot of people are in an underpriced situation, and it would be a lot to rip the band-aid off and increase your prices by $10 a haircut when you start at 25. That's a huge percent.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know there's a great answer for that, just to be totally honest with you. I think you have to know yourself, know your clients, and what you're comfortable with.
Okay.
I would rather see people do incremental price increases. There are many coaches out there that just say rip the band-aid, just sort it out. The clients there, the ones who want to keep anyways. Maybe that might be true. But I would work with a coach on that. Absolutely.
Cool. And as you're increasing your pricing, which is important to do with inflation, just because the price of everything in our world and business is going up, doesn't mean that the perceived value of what you're producing is going up. What are you doing in your barbershop, or what are you seeing your clients doing to make it so that little bump in pricing is uncomfortable or worthwhile to their clients?
Honestly, they don't say a word about it.
Okay.
I mean, honestly, like, it's something that the first few years I was so nervous about. I was like, don't get me mad. Like, we get a few old men, they're like, first prices.
Yeah. When I was your age, my haircut was 25 cents.
That's right. Well, you know what we did is for our senior cuts, we just honestly, for the old man, we're like, hey, y'all, to you.
This is you kept going just now.
Yeah, that's right.
You're still alive.
You're still alive.
Here's your haircut.
We're glad to have you here, right? So we don't really mess with that. We'll increase it a little bit, but not there with aggressively. And it's just, you know what? It's not a big enough part of our business to make a difference. So.
Well, being someone who has a background in the military, do you offer military discounts?
We do. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we do 10% off of all services and products.
Okay, I think that's lovely. I was just curious because we are a full service high-end salon in Arizona. We don't have a lot of military in our area. I'm sure there's some. A lot of my cousins are in the military. But I had somebody ask if we did that. And I was like, I never even thought of it because we've never had somebody ask. And I think it's a lovely thing to provide some kind of thoughtful thank you to the people who might be big supporters of your community. Something we do as well is when we have teachers or healthcare workers, we'll do little thank yous or shout out spotlights in the community because we have a very where we are is a very family community and there's a ton of schools and healthcare workers. So it's just one of those things that's like nice to think of little ways to thank your community for loyal. Without damaging your bottom line. Exactly. All right, cool. Talk to me a little bit about your business partner, and you said you got this crazy idea to start a barbershop. Like, really, how did that?
Really, we were just laughing at the church.
It was a funny conversation.
It's
You
just a
said,
funny
you
conversation.
said you were in Mayberry and
Yeah.
like didn't have a barbershop, but I was wondering, like, was there anything besides kind of a whim?
It's just a whim. It's
Okay, legitimately.
well, legitimately a whim. It's something we talked about and realized that we could. And so, what our priorities as we started is we wanted to provide a really good service to the community we live in, and we wanted to provide an excellent location where barbers would come in and make a really good living, which I failed on it first, but we got better. You know? But we wanted to provide a great place with good culture where people could come in and work and make a good living. And then we wanted to make a little money along the way.
Right. All right. It sounds like how's the experiment going so far?
It's fantastic. I love it. I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Okay.
It's good days, bad days, but everything's good.
You love your people, which I think is important. What else have you found to be beneficial in building your culture, Michael?
Well, I made the mistake of thinking that I could fix people because 20 years in the Navy, that's a lot of the people, like that's just part of the culture. I'm going to make you a better person, right? You're going to lead, you're better. Yeah. You can't do that when you're in business. You can do that in the military. You can do that through like Boy Scouts. You can do that other ways, but you cannot do that business without crushing the culture. So what I realized is that I need to hire slower and fire faster.
I like that.
And so I made a promise to my team that I would not keep people that were bad for the culture.
Okay.
And so I've just been very strict about that. And if somebody is creating unnecessary angst inside the shop, it's 900 square feet. It's a tight space with 7
You're
chairs.
bunking up with roommates really close by.
Yeah, you spend more time with them than you do with your family.
Talk to me a little bit about hire slow, fire fast. I love it. It's catchy. Sounds good on a slogan. What does it mean to hire slow?
So I think number one, really good interview questions.
Okay.
Right, and understand what the person's looking for because we're not the best fit for everyone.
All right.
And so sometimes it's just better to decide to part professionally, right?
Okay.
Just say, well, listen, it's a benefit for either of us. We want what's best for you, and it's me somewhere that's here.
And is that during the interview before you hire them, or that?
Yeah.
And that can also be. It sounds like when you start to realize there's a misalignment.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's both. So what we do is we do kind of a probationary period.
Okay.
Right, and so we'll do a 30-day check-in, 60-day check-in, just make sure everyone is like, hey, are we providing you what you need to be successful, and are you doing what you told us that you want?
Perfect.
Yeah.
Are we both holding up our end of the expectation and bargain? I like that. Now, your trial period, is it a legitimate, like, this is a working interview for 2 weeks? So what do you tell, how do you introduce that concept to individuals?
Well, I mean, so in order for a barber to be successful in our job, they have to realize that they're also business owners.
Yeah.
Right, and so you have an obligation to build your own business to make the most of the opportunity. At the same time, we have to support each other, right? A rising tide floats all boats.
Sounds like someone who's been in the
It sounds like it, right?
Okay.
So what we want to do is we want to make sure that you're holding up your end to support not only my business, but also to support your fellow barbers that are within 900 square feet.
Okay.
And so we want to make sure that what you're bringing to the table is maintaining the process, the standard of our work. And I'm okay. So I'm super excited. I've got my newest barber straight out of school.
Okay.
Right. It's the first time we brought in a student.
Fun.
But he's older. He had some time in the Navy, right? Oddly enough, it wasn't by design. It's kind of worked out that way. So he's mature, just fantastic. But he's working on the skills. And so what he's enjoying is the team is really pouring into him.
Oh, that.
So it's to help him be more successful. Because the reputation of the shop is the reputation of the
Yeah, I think that's lovely. When it comes to firing fast, what does that look like at Daniel Island Barbershop?
It can move real fast.
Apple.
Well, so I think there's kind of two cases, right? So if it's a toxic situation, and so I have some thresholds, right? So I have my barbers that will tell me what's going on very quickly. That's kind of my first data point.
Right.
I don't take immediate action to that. My radar is turned off. And then I have other barbers that will tell me later, and I'm like, okay, well, they have a higher tolerance for pain.
Yep.
And so when I hear it from them, I really pay attention to it. And then I have one barber that if I hear it from her, like, I'm like, you got to go.
Okay.
Because if she's telling me, like, there's issues, like,
You should have let them go last.
she should already be gone.
Yeah.
But we start with conversation. Like, we're like, hey, talk to me about what's going on, right? And it gets super uncomfortable. It gets super uncomfortable. Just tell me about what's going on. Why is there this conflict? What miscommunication? Frequently, it's just a miscommunication point. We just want to bring that to the surface and talk about it. But, you've heard of the idea of like, this is why retention matters to me. Every time we invest this up, we get the idea. Every time you bring somebody new onto a team, you go through the whole forming kind of phases. And so I allow space for this one because inevitably when somebody you're going to go like, if somebody didn't say good morning, you think they that or something like that. Right. And so I'm like, oh, come on, give them a break. Like, let's just take a breath. Yeah, it's okay. And what I want to see is how do we get into the forming, right? And then after you got somebody there for 6 months, you kind of get into a darkness more. Everyone knows what to expect from each other. They can know that like so and so doesn't want to talk until they have their fee, right? Yeah.
Okay. 3,000 milligrams later, that's your heart. I'm like having a panic attack hearing about that. That's okay. So we wait till noon.
Wait till next.
So you've ingested 3,000 milligrams.
3,000 milligrams.
Beginning to know basically what the flow is of the team. And are you having regular meetings with your team?
I try to meet with everybody with intentionality twice a year.
Okay.
So the goal is to do one team meeting once a year. That's more of a celebration than anything else. And then meet with folks one-on-one. Okay. Now I'm in and out, right? And people always know I'm there. So they can always talk to me about what's going on.
So this might not be a formal meeting, so to speak, but they have access to you should there be a concern or problem. So keeping the channels of communication open is going to be really helpful in keeping the traffic kind of flowing smooth. I mean, listen, I remember the first person I had to let go with love and release them back into the world to find other work. And I remember it was so painful because I liked them. And I feel guilty. And their livelihood depends on working with of that time. I remember how stressful it was. And it wasn't until somebody helped me understand the concept that what I've established in the rest of my team is not only is it destroying or diminishing it, but it's also insulting everybody else who's showing up fully. And when I realized I'm really allowing a disruption or something to drag down everybody else, because I tide raceball ships, but when the ocean is drained, everybody's just falling to the ocean floor, right?
That's right, yeah.
So it wasn't until I realized it was my responsibility as the leader to keep that clean, so the people existing who are aligning to our business values were able to excel, that I realized I had to do it. Yeah. And it made it easier. And then also realizing if someone isn't a really great cultural fit, I keep them with me longer than they belong. This is true. I mean, we talked about death, now we're talking about divorce. Of any relationship, when you keep something sustained beyond its healthy point, you wind up actually hurting the person that you keep on your team. Maybe that person who's working in your shop would really do better in a different industry or a different space. Yeah. But if you're trying to save them and protect them, you're actually keeping them from what might be best for them as well.
Absolutely.
And there's only one person we're really trying to protect and avoid these hard conversations. So, yeah. We're only trying to protect ourselves from the pain of an awkward conversation. And as awkward as I am, I really don't like those hard conversations, but I realize how much more difficult they become. So that's a great takeaway for us to know.
I got one bonus for you.
I have a bonus. Well, I do have a bonus round question, but why don't you start with the bonus?
So here's the bonus. Do a Google search on the higher first.
Oh. So what do you look like? Cake handstand, right?
Well, more like find out if they've been arrested before.
Just little
body slamming a woman outside of the hospital, right? So
wait for us. Did you find that out the wrong way? It's not funny. Body slamming women is never okay in front of a hospital or not.
I mean, God bless this individual. There's some mental health issues there.
Yeah.
It was
unmitigated and unmet.
Yeah, and so just do a Google search, find out if they're in the local newspaper for some reason.
Oh, I mean, if you're in the local newspaper for rescuing kittens, you are welcome to apply.
When.
Perfect. Yes. Please don't body slam anybody. Male or female, no gender. Don't body slam anybody.
Don't body slam. No, sure, like a pro wrestler.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a big one. Did you Google that after you let them go, or were you like, something's not adding up?
I found out. So not everybody is looking to shop for like that reasons.
Okay.
So fortunately, I see clients say, hey, I heard this hired so and so. You should check this out.
Okay. So just a quick Google search.
Google search.
Pretty easy. So not a bad idea. I like that. I like that. Okay, because honestly, like people can have different lives, or people can recuperate from their past.
Yeah,
I would want to believe that. But looking at like what the distance was between
recency
felonies, how long ago was that, right?
Are they still due to go to trial?
It's funny. Thank you so much for giving us that pointer. Let Michael learn the hard way. Learn the hard way, Michael, and then let us know on the next podcast. I want to know right now what's on your Audible, what's in your headphones, what are you listening to, or what are you reading? What's your mind doing?
Podcast, John. So I listen to all the financial stuff, of course. I won't.
Sounds so boring. Tell us though.
Yeah.
We need this.
So Barron's Streetwise podcast
Yeah.
comes out once a week. It's funny. The guy who does it's hilarious. And to me, it's just kind of good to listen to and kind of hear some data points that are kind of coming outside of my direct organization.
Cool.
So I enjoy that. There's a podcast I listen to called All In Podcast. It's got 4 venture capital guys with different viewpoints talking about really tough issues that not experts in. So yeah, it's great. But they're business owners, right?
Okay.
So as a business owner, it's very relatable.
All right.
So I've started listening recently to Community's podcast, Light Bulb Moments from Community. So that's just actually been really good.
And that's industry specific.
That's industry specific, yeah, for the salon industry. Gordon's last name, one on it. He's got a podcast. It's really good. I forever finally got it. So anyways, I'll come back to that one. Should you follow note?
And we can put it in the show notes.
Yeah, put it in the show notes. What else am I listening to? What is a laundry list? If you want to learn about history, American history, tell us it's to listen to. And then probably my new favorite, but you need about 4 hours.
Nobody has 4 hours for one episode.
Yeah,
Ew.
one episode.
What is that?
It's called Acquired. They talk about the history of every company that you've ever heard of. So they've done Hermes, they've done Vuitton.
That actually sounds
Rolex.
fascinating.
It's
I am an artist, and I'm not. Well, I am a business person, but like I like art and I love history and all that.
Yeah.
When you said 4 hours, you lost me immediately, and then when you told me what it was about, I'm like, that actually sounds
These
really
guys are
juicy.
good. Yeah.
Okay.
I just listened to one on Indian cricket, and I don't know anything about cricket, but it was just fast.
I like this.
It's really good.
But for those of you who are just tuning in, 4 hours is too long for anything. Ever.
Yeah.
Like a flight.
It's a long drive.
It's too much. That's a good point. I'm going to be on a cross-country flight on Monday.
Yeah.
So, okay,
Yeah.
I might be downloading that. What's the most used app in your phone?
My work email.
Okay. Sounds like you need a spark assessment. That's so cute. He looks at his own email still. No, I love it. Thank you so much, Michael Cole, for joining us on this beautiful show floor. I'm so excited. Maybe we'll hop in and look and probably on our Instagram page some of the live action happening and everything else. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for sharing with us some of those great takeaways. Plan for your succession, hopefully through retirement, okay? And clean up your dadgum balance sheet. Hire a financial planner or CPA and Google people who apply for you before you find out they are a known felon. Michael Cole, ladies and gentlemen.
So nice. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely.